Hey everybody, welcome back to another Dead by Daylight video. So today I wanted to talk about a question I posed to my community over here on YouTube as well as Twitter on who is the worst designed killer in the game. What was interesting about these results wasn't just the answers, but the different camps that showed up from it. On the YouTube side of things, over half of the votes voted for Nurse, and we'll get into her in just a minute. On the Twitter side of things, however, this is where it was interesting. Twitter was a lot more divisive, but it came down to two main killers, and that was Knight and Skull Merchant, who are the two I want to talk about for a minute. I'm not going to talk about Skull Merchant, and the reason why I'm not is because I have an entire podcast talking about Skull Merchant and the issues she has. And I think the biggest problem with Skull Merchant is that people don't understand her. This isn't me calling anyone dumb or anything. She has a lot of moving parts on both sides, and it's completely understandable. Does that mean she's not frustrating? No, it doesn't mean that at all. Does that mean she doesn't need to be changed in any way? It does not mean that at all. If you want my full thoughts, the podcast I did with Pixel Bush last week is still up. I know it's a long watch, but trust me, we talk a lot about Skull Merchant in that. My self-promo done, let's talk about Knight. So Knight was the other one on the Twitter side of things that was brought up a lot. And what I will say about Knight is I feel Knight is not inherently badly designed. I think the way he's intended to be played, and I'm going to go over what I mean by that in just a second, makes him less frustrating than he needs to be. We also need to talk about the idea of what do I mean by well-designed. So well-designed does not mean how fun a killer is to face or not. That is a completely subjective thing and very hard to determine on an objective stance. For example, I said this in the good designed killers that I despise playing against Pinhead. He's the killer that I just hate seeing. If I load into a match with a Pinhead, I audibly groan. However, I'm self-aware to understand that he is well designed. There's a counter for everything in his kit. There's a lot of build up to everything he does. Just because he hits you doesn't mean hits you with the chain doesn't necessarily mean it's a guaranteed hit. He still has to aim the chain, etc., etc. I think the thing with Knight is very similar to Nemesis Zombies. A lot of times, because you're getting hit by AI or sandwiched by AI into the Knight for the double hit, it feels like there's not much you can do. You loop a Knight, he just plops a guard down to the loop, and now you have to just leave the loop or play the loop, and now you have two attacks to try and dodge. And the only real counterplay are technically exploits, where you fake vaulting a pallet or a window or whatever and throw off the AI and all that stuff. The only other form of counterplay is trying to catch the banner, which I do still think is good counterplay. I just feel the banner should spawn differently than it does. I don't think it should spawn right when the guards start chasing you. I think it should spawn a little bit later, because if it's in a loop, then if it spawns where they are, especially if it's an assassin, you're not going to get to the banner. That would be my one suggestion to it. But the bigger thing I want to talk about is the idea of intentional gameplay. How does Behavior want people to play this killer? So, looking at everything in this killer's kit, how he's designed, how he places guards, the fact that he gets a speed buff from placing his guards from a farther distance away to patrol longer stretches of land, and the way the guards work and have these different attributes, I think the way Behavior wants you to play him is sort of a micromanagey, send the guards to chase other people while you're just a basic M1 killer chasing the first one. The problem with that is, one, that doesn't always work or guarantee a hit. It might slow them down a bit, but it's not going to guarantee anything. And two, there's not enough of a reward or punishment to make you not just plop a guard down at a loop. And I think that's the biggest issue with it. Now, we will be doing the Knight podcast. I actually have someone for that. It probably won't be out for about a month or so, but we'll probably talk about this in there. But the thing is, once a guard is plopped down, the Knight has no punishment, other than the survivor might start holding forward and running away. So they'll often just plop it down and then chase with it. And that's usually how it goes. This isn't always the best strategy, but it works. And that's the other issue with it. It works. So why wouldn't you do it? And because of this inherent design of how people play him versus how I think Behavior wants him to be played, I do have to concede and agree that he is in essence probably badly designed. I still enjoy playing Knight and against Knight. I really do. But I understand people's frustrations with him. Now let's go to the other side of things. Nurse. Why is Nurse considered badly designed? Now, before anyone screams and yells, oh, she's hard to play, Listen here, you little shit. Yes, she is hard to master. She is not hard to play. Play her for about 3 or 4 matches, and I guarantee you'll get the hang of it. You'll still get some ridiculous hits you couldn't do on any other killer. And I think that's where the conceit of why a lot of people think Nurse is badly designed. She is the only killer in the game who literally ignores half of the mechanics in the game. Pallets doesn't matter. Looping doesn't matter. Walls and scenery doesn't matter. If the Nurse knows what they're doing, they are going to hit you. Oh, well, you can just lose line of sight. No, not necessarily. If they have a good idea on predicting and are good at vetting you earlier on in the match and learn exactly what you're going to do, trust me, some Nurse players can do that. You're getting hit. She has 2 blinks, one to get close, one to compensate for how she missed. And I think the mere fact that she can basically ignore half of the mechanics of the video game is the reason why she is considered badly designed. And I kind of have to agree. Until the recent nurse nerfs, I say that was hard to really say out loud. Until the recent changes to Nurse, where she no longer, her M2 now counts as a special attack instead of a basic attack, she would run a lot of exposed perks and add-ons to make sure she could down people super fast and go on a slugfest. Nowadays, she mostly runs Aura, so she can still see you, which is a whole other topic of discussion as far as Nurse goes. But even with the nerf, she's still good. If anything, she became better because people stopped running exposed stuff and started running aura reading to make sure they can hit you and slow down to slow the game down long enough for arguably the best killer of the game. The reason Nurse is always so high on tier lists is because she has mobility, but on top of that, she ignores looping. She doesn't loop like every other killer. And I don't mean in the sense of how Chucky and Hag and even and other killers like that kind of change, quote unquote, how looping works. She straight up just doesn't loop. She doesn't care. There's a wall in the way, teleports through it. Oh, you dropped a pallet? Doesn't matter. She teleports through it. Oh, you stunned her? No, you didn't. Be honest with yourself. You didn't. You didn't. Okay, you didn't. Are you going to show me a clip of you doing it? You didn't. Okay. Anyways, my dismissive ass out of the way. Yeah, I think that's really what it comes down to with Nurse. Tell me what you guys think, honestly, on these thoughts on why they're the worst design killers in the game. I don't really know how to change them. I think it's the other thing. The only thing I would really do with Knight is maybe give a punishment for just plopping a guard down. Maybe you get hindered instead of sped up based on how far the patrol is sent out. That way you're more encouraged to actually send them out to chase different people. For a Nurse, honestly, at this point, without like completely changing who the character is, I really don't know what much more they can do. I really, really don't. I was a big proponent of just making her M1s, M2s, and she would be fine. You could argue she kind of is in a better place now because you're not instantly dying, but yeah. Some honorable mentions I do want to say, because the voting was very strange. There was a lot of other killers that were mentioned. Trickster was mentioned a lot. Not as much as Knight and Nurse and Skull Merchant, but Trickster was mentioned a few times. I think that one comes down to the fact that he basically wins every loop unless you have a wall in the way. Because unlike Huntress, you can dodge a Huntress hatchet. You're not dodging all of Trickster's knives unless they're really bad. Legion was brought up sometimes. I think the thing with Legion is why he's badly designed is he gets a free injure state and then he just becomes an M1 killer. I think it's badly designed on the killer side more so than the survivor side, but also the fact that he's basically a mending simulator doesn't make it very well designed in that sense. Does he really need to add the mend to his power? I think it's more to compensate for the fact that he might run across the map to hit somebody else, but yeah. But it's pretty much all the major ones that were discussed. Once again, tell me what you guys think. I know I'm not the most... I didn't want to go super in-depth with this like I did with the Oni one because we had about 4 or 5 killers to talk about, but yeah, this is very interesting. But as always, I love y'all. Like and sub and all that stuff. Have a good one, and yeah. Bye!